Good evening and welcome to the Gators Garage, our weekly broadcast of all things related to historical gaming in and around Savannah, Georgia. Sponsored by Gator Games and Books and supported by Pulaski's Guard. This week, we're going to talk about the tournament that we just had this past weekend. I'm here with my assistant TO, Randy Yan. Honestly, Randy was kind of the fire under my rear to make sure everything happened, and I got to give a real big tip of the hat to him. Randy, say hey to the folks.
Hey, how's it going? Yeah, so I was cracking the whip on Mike for a couple weeks there.
Yeah, great job, man. And results spoke for themselves. We had 12 spots and filled every one of them. We had players from Georgia, South Carolina, and Florida, which is just fantastic. Granted, Savannah sits kind of at the nexus of those three states, but still, that's not a bad showing and ranks right up there with, it's the same amount we've had at one other tournament. That was the one we put on at Morningstar.
Yeah, and we
So,
had we had three late dropouts too. I mean, like last minute, so it could have been a lot bigger too. If some things
exactly.
hadn't come up.
Yeah. Yeah. If we had had them all, we'd have had probably 16 people and had to bring in, I don't know where we'd have gotten the extra tables. We'd have had to go buy some.
Here's a green
So
mat. Just use your imagination. No.
that's right. Well, and I know we're talking for, next year, we may well grow to 16 because I think we're going to keep this format. I think it works. It's, you go to so many tournaments and you end up with British fighting Americans, Americans fighting Americans, Germans fighting Germans. And that's fine if the tournament is your thing, but if you've got any kind of love for history, you want to see at least an Axis and an Allied matchup. For
Yeah.
example, in the last session, go ahead. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it makes it a lot more thematic, and I think guys get a little more excited about it, instead of like, oh boy, here I'm playing some Americans again or some British, and we both got preparatory bombardment or whatever, and so we got the same list. Like I played in a tournament at, I think it was Recon a year ago, not this year but last year, and second round I played Gurkhas, and we ended up in a draw, which I guess that's fitting, but it's like, playing Gurkhas. You don't want to do that. You want to play against some Japanese or something.
Right. In that third round, as I was walking around, I actually saw some very historic matchups. I had Gurkhas versus British.
Yeah.
I had Americans versus Italians, and Germans versus Americans. So
Well,
in
there
in
was
Normandy.
my matchup was Germans versus Gurkhas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is, in all honesty, I think a bit ahistorical. I think the Gurkhas spent most of their time in Asia, but I could be wrong.
Yeah.
I'm not a Gurkha expert. You probably are.
There was
But,
some in Italy too, and that I guess that's where the
oof,
tough gut Gurkhas come from. But they
okay.
were actually different guys. They were. I don't know if they had the same training that the ones that fought. Uh, so I think they might have been recruited like at the last. The
Hmm,
other ones were there all along, and they had the
wow.
ferocity that they're noted for.
Wow. So yeah, and the Japanese versus the British were actually in the jungle, which is entirely fitting, Burma. The Italians and Americans were actually fighting in what could have been either the North African desert or more like Tanzania. So it
Yeah.
was really cool to see. Again, to your point, thematic. And how do you think the team dynamic came off?
I think it was really good. I think everybody worked pretty well. There was a lot of strategy involved in trying to match guys up, which normally, it's just like random. You get whoever you get, but there we're actually trying to create matchups that'll help us win. Well, like the last round, we were down, and so my first thought was pair myself up against John Ross and try to beat him. But then I said, well, what if we took our best three players and put them against their three weakest players, the weakest list and players, and
Yeah,
guarantee three wins. And then maybe one of our other guys pulls out either a draw or a win, possibly. And then that would have given us the win. And it really worked. Our three top players all won convincingly, actually. And then John Linville was close to winning or at least drawing his match until like the last turn of that game. And I thought Brad might have been able to do it too, but he wasn't able to. I think he had a pretty rough go of it, but it almost worked. It almost got us
Yeah.
back into it.
Yeah. You guys went from 5 points down to, I think, 3 points down. So either one of
Yeah,
those wins would have flipped it the other direction.
or even a
Definitely.
draw. Well, see, a draw would
Yeah.
have given us a tie.
Yep.
We'd have got one of those at a draw, and we had so many kill points. I think we'd have won it on kill points.
Right. And that's one of the things that I do in our tournaments that I don't see in other tournaments. I'm going to give you a point for a draw because I always think you're going to earn something for showing up. Even in the real world, your guys might get beat, but they're going to pick up experience.
Yeah,
So you,
I'm almost like I want a minus point for losing the game, punishment for losing.
brutal. Oh my God. Oh man. So yeah. So I thought again. I watched the team dynamic. I had one player he sent me a message afterward. He said, "I really enjoyed playing alongside experienced players. It really helped my grasp of the game." And that's the other thing I think that really sets our tournament aside is we're not shy to invite new players.
Yeah,
We had one new player. I don't think the guy had ever actually played bolt action. He'd read the rules. His stuff looked good, but he hadn't actually had a chance to play. We had two other people that were kind of new, and
yeah,
so they were doing some learning on the fly. I know you and John Ross, folks, are going to get to hear his name a lot, but did a lot of coaching of
yeah.
both the players and the tournament organizer. So that came off really well. Let's take a look at just a couple things we did here. So one of the things we tried to do, and this was Randy's idea, was give this thing a solid theme. And so it was the let's do that. Uh, there we go. So it was the Savannah Garrison Pulaski Cup team tournament. So the first two rounds were truly team play. The third round was individual, which
Yeah.
is kind of cool and gave everybody a chance to both learn as teams and then play as individuals. About 1,250 points a player, and clearly along the Axis and the Allies. And it went really, really well. The winning team each got a cup with this logo on it, and we'll do that going forward each year. Comments, Randy?
Um, no, actually, I think the cups were pretty awesome. Everybody that got one was like, "Wow!" when they took it out of the box,
Yeah.
and looked at it. So
Yeah.
they saw it from
Well,
afar, but when they actually took it out and held it in their hands, you could see them smiling about it. They liked them.
yeah, I've never seen a tournament do this. I've seen some give some tournament specific like templates and stuff away.
Yeah,
Um, I was inspired by this. I've got an HMGS South Cup that I got at Siege of Augusta back in 2007,
yeah,
and it's one of my favorite things. And I think the guys will really appreciate this. Every time they look at it, they're going to be reminded of our group and be reminded of how much fun they had and tell their
yeah,
friends. So there you
yeah.
go.
And I think that'll spread. We'll get some more players next year.
Yep. And then the cup will absolutely remain part of the tradition.
Yeah,
No two ways about it. It helps that I've got an inside track on someone to make these. I'm actually having them make me one because the one you got I was originally going to get, and then well things worked out a little different than I thought they might.
yeah. And and
So
this
I'm
is
glad I was able to
totally
give you
unique.
one. You did some hard work for the tournament and definitely earned it.
Yeah, thanks. This was
Yeah.
totally unique because I've seen team tournaments and it's usually just any army you bring. I don't think I've ever seen a team tournament where it was Axis teams versus Allied teams.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. I
truly,
think that
truly like
makes
World War, this is just like World War II would have been.
yes. Yeah. And that was again your idea, and I love it. It just I know we've
And
gotten
it
at our
just hit me.
times of war club. Go
I
ahead.
was watching golf and I was like Ryder Cup, and I was like, that's pretty cool. Why don't we do something in bolt action that's like Ryder Cup? And of course, we were going to name it the Ryder Cup, but the copyright things, so we had to come up with something different. I think we came up with a pretty good name for this.
Yeah, our club is named after Count Pulaski, so I think that's a pretty cool way to do that. But
Yeah,
yeah, absolutely. And to your point, Um, and it hopefully to give the other tournaments some ideas too. Um, so I can't wait for next year. I'm thinking next year we may keep the same exact color scheme and just change it to 25. I really liked it.
Yeah,
I
yeah. I
think
don't
it
see any
worked.
reason to go any different from what we've got. Just update the year on it. The
Yeah.
date will obviously change. It won't be the same date next year.
No, probably that same Saturday though. That's a good
Yeah.
Saturday.
That's what, the third Saturday
Yeah,
of
it's
the
the
month.
third Saturday in May. And I kind
Yeah,
of like it falls on the same weekend as our club meeting. I kind of like it that it does. Um, it gives guys an opportunity if they want to come down and do a test drive
hmm
on some of their armies, or even just come down and just get some of the games in, turn it into almost makes it almost like a mini, a 2 day game event as opposed to just one. And we may emphasize that side of it a little more next year.
yeah. So I think Patrick Bollinger has
Yeah.
already asked when it'll be next year,
Oh, that's
and
fantastic.
I told him I thought it was about mid-May is when it'll
Yep.
be. So uh,
We can't get a better compliment than that when someone says, "Hey, can we do it again?"
yeah,
That's that. Whether you're a game designer or a tournament manager or whatever, when people are asking when you can play again, you know you've done it right. Like I say, this was actually sponsored by our local HMGS affiliate here, Savannah Garrison, Pulaski's Guard. Here in Savannah, we're working very hard to try and raise the visibility of historical gaming as a just absolute great hobby in and of itself. Everything from shoot ancients all the way up to moderns, and actually we've done Friday night we had well, the theme was moderns, and we actually ran some we had an anti-terrorism game called In Country, and then we had a modern naval game that was run. So that was pretty cool. We had Hail Caesar on the table last month, and I'm sure it'll come on the table again with Hail Caesar dropping from Warlord Games here shortly. I'm really excited about that.
yeah. They actually played that in country on our jungle table, and that looked
Yes,
pretty good. I was like, man, I wish I could be over there playing that, but I'd already committed to playing some bolt action. So
that's really the challenge is getting enough people to run enough different games. And I really, that all came off very well. And Micah that played with you guys just had such a great time. So
yeah,
that was
yeah,
really
he did
good. And
have fun.
yeah, and that in country was perfect on that jungle board. I was like, yeah, I got a test drive. Had two of our boards got test drives, so we know they work.
And
So that was really good.
Nicholas, who was new to this too, I noticed he was having a blast Saturday. You know, even though he wasn't doing well, he was just having fun, and that's what it's all about.
Yeah. Well, our guys are so great too, and I think several guys took time to kind of coach him on play as well, and
Yeah,
that's helpful, especially on the team side. That comes out real handy. So
yeah.
speaking of terrain,
Looking back on the matchups, I think I might have been. I tried to pair strong teams together
yep,
and go from there. But maybe if I had like paired one of our strong players with one of the newer guys and let them coach them through the game, they might have pulled them along and maybe done better that way. I don't know, but
okay,
sometimes you just make the best decision you can and go with it.
yeah. I
And
mean,
we came close, so
yeah,
I can't say I did the wrong thing. So
no, it's yeah. That's what made this almost like as close as we want to get to a real military operation. Is you kind of had to turn these guys loose and trust them to carry out their operation, and some of the guys did, some didn't, just like real life. And all
yeah,
kinds of factors. Your newer guys almost always struggle, and that's okay.
and I got a shot across the bow when I walked over to John Ross's table and tried to help Linville. He was like, "Get out of here!"
Yeah, and I liked how John did it because he was very. And it's one of the things you can. John Ross, of course, he's the CEO of a grocery chain, and he's used
Yep.
to being an authority. And it was just cool how he did it because he said it directly, but it wasn't. It was perfect. And again,
Yeah.
John Ross, for those that don't know, he runs the war. The what's the name of that war?
Um,
He runs a big tournament up in Atlanta, and
yeah.
so he's definitely used to being in charge and stuff. And he was dead on right. You were kind of like, yeah, you're right. So it was great. That I think Linville was giving him a pretty good run for his money. So, but that was
Yeah,
really good. It's one of those things. One of the things I know, even in casual play, I try and get players to kind of let their partner make mistakes, if you will, and
yeah,
learn from those. So that was pretty cool.
yeah.
But yeah, so talking about the terrain, here's
Oh
some
yeah,
shots from Saturday morning where we're setting up. You can see the village. Let me blow this up here. You can see the Normandy village here that you put together. The snowboard that you put together. I think that was kind of a team effort there. I think I may have thrown one or two things on there, maybe. And then
yeah.
over here, of course, the
So
Shattered Village, which was definitely one I put together.
yeah,
I
that's the
bought the
Shattered
Shattered. Go
Village.
ahead.
This town here, that was a uh, something new. You know, I just recently put that together, and it
Okay.
sucks up all my buildings. It really does. It takes a lot of buildings to put that table together.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, yeah, the
John
Shattered
Ross
Village
really
actually
liked the
replaced.
church.
Go ahead.
Yeah, he really liked the church. He was asking me how I made the stone look like stone on there, and so it's just a square, well, actually rectangular piece of foam is cut. I cut it out to the size I wanted, and you just you spray the thing black, and then you dip it in this mixture of grayish black paint, and then you just stick it on there and twist it. Give it like a tiny little twist to give it a little bit of a blurred effect, and it comes out looking like stone.
That looks like some intense, detailed work you did there.
It
My
was
hat is absolutely off to you.
the roof took me like a couple days to do. It was the roof was terrible because I had to make all the shingles. So
Right. Wow. Yeah, Randy, that was there's several other pieces on there that you scratch built and you
yep,
do really fantastic work. I've bragged on you before.
yeah, thanks.
Um don't know if folks can see it close, but you got the rocks that you strewn out into the road as some fallen rubble, and that's pretty cool. Again, it
Yeah,
all
so
creates a really
that cuts
go
down
ahead.
on one side having two roads that run
Yep,
straight to the middle. It kind of slows things down a little bit.
there you go. There you go. Yeah, the board is as much a part of the story of a game as the two armies. And I think it's real important that that when you're putting a board together, whether it's for club play or tournament play, try and put it together with a theme or with a couple of themes,
Yeah.
and that
Well,
really makes a huge difference.
if you look at the left side of this board, you'll see that all the damaged buildings are on this side and representing, some shells landing over here that, they
Right?
weren't really meant to hit this town, but friendly fire or whatever. It took out a block of the town, and that's the rest of them are intact, but that block got hit.
Yeah. I mean, if you look through pictures of the war, you'll see that shattered building right next to one that's totally intact.
Yeah.
And of course, then you got my village over here that just got bombed to fare thee well. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
they
got
just didn't
craters
care
and
on that one.
every.
It's like
Yeah,
we're killing scorched earth over there.
yeah, exactly. And I've got some other pictures we captured too.
Oh, there
So,
we go. Yeah, so this
yep,
is the
there's,
bocage table here in the
yep,
foreground.
yeah,
Um, that was tough to a lot of people because of the line of sight blockers and the
hmm
hard. It's hard to move on this table, but
but
everybody
that's what the
loved it because
bocage was. It was very
it was
difficult to
beautiful.
maneuver through. Yeah.
Yeah,
And yeah, just a reminder, folks, that Randy and I provided all this terrain. Some of the trees were done by our buddy James Casey. We call him the Garrison's quartermaster because he makes a lot of our trees, and you're going to see some other things by James as well. Some of the buildings were loaned to the group, like this one here from Wayne Huggins. He's one of our members. The wall going around that house there, these are the printed buildings by Micro Art that Warlord makes and I sell.
they're
The
ready to go.
desert
You just
board.
you just put them
Go
together and
ahead.
stick them on the table. They're pre-painted. They're ready to go.
Yeah,
In about 30 minutes, you can have a building ready to go.
pretty much. This is our famous desert board. I think every year we do something desert. And I got the comment that, gee, this is a very tough board for the scenario. And I was like, oh,
Uh,
mission accomplished. So
yeah.
they,
So
this was
when
a
we
joint
played
effort
on this
between me
one,
and you.
I think I want to say it was sectors. So
Yes.
they decided to use this oasis as a choke point uh, and ambush. However, it ended up being a choke point for them, and we ambushed them coming through there because we brought
Nice.
all of our armor right through that hole. Um,
Wow.
and if you notice the wrinkles on the mat,
Yeah.
so there was a couple times when he rolled his dice and it hit the wrinkle and it would have come up a 6, but it rolled back off of it. And so I joked that he got hit by a sandstorm.
Oh, so that's why you should use the dice tray. Just saying.
Yeah, yeah. And we had a dice tray, but I think he was rolling like one dice or something, so he didn't
Sure.
roll it in the
Sure.
tray. But
And then over here we got the jungle terrain,
jungle mat, yeah,
which man, again, that was a joint project and just came off really well.
looks
I'd like
really
to see us build
great.
some more of those jungle buildings. I don't. Did you scratch build that jungle house?
Yeah, that one
It's nice,
I built from some stuff I got from Hobby Lobby. Uh, the roof took me a day just because I
right?
had to make all these basically little palm fronds out of
Right?
some other plants that I got from Hobby Lobby, and it
Nice.
came out beautiful. I really like it. I
Yeah,
don't think I
it's a
want to do
nice piece.
another one.
I would
But
say I think there's some MDF jungle buildings on the Warlord site.
yeah,
We can
I'll
look into maybe
probably
picking up one or two of those. Be
because I'd
worth
like to
having for
add
this.
a couple
Go
buildings
ahead.
to this table.
Right.
Um, and I'm gonna the so this mat that I got, the jungle mat, it only has kind of roads on one side, so we had to
Right.
add another road. But I'm gonna get some of this tan. I'm gonna make some tan road to match up, so it won't look different. And then that way we'll be
That'll
able to
be
add a
awesome.
road to this side of the table.
Okay. Good call on that too. Making sure that's one of the things again when you're laying a table out. You want to make sure the terrain is reasonably balanced. You don't have to mirror
Hmm.
it, but you want it to be balanced. Also, watch for the edge of the table. Make sure you throw some things to break up the table edge, just like you do the middle, so people can't run the edge of the table. That's important. And when it
Yeah,
comes to roads, yeah, making sure folks have at least reasonable access to roads for both sides. That's really a good idea.
yeah. Especially if if an army has wheeled vehicles and you don't provide some kind of means to travel, it could really hurt one army or the other, depending on what they packed in their army.
That makes sense. That's a good point. That's a good point. We didn't get. I thought I'd gotten close up shots of all the boards, but apparently I did not. I do have some shots of them in play, but
Hmm.
yeah. So that's kind of our selection of boards. I'm disappointed I didn't get a real good close up shot of the Shattered Village. I was surprised. I thought I did, but
Yeah,
yeah. Overall, people always compliment our tables.
yeah, and the snowboard was interesting to play on too because of that movement penalty. Uh, Honestly, it really hurt my Gurkhas because we weren't allowed to make a run with my trucks. So normally I like to put them in the trucks and just run them straight at the enemy and then dump the Gurkhas
Sure.
out. And I couldn't do that. I had to go 12 inches at a time, or actually 11 inches at a
Yeah.
time. So
But it makes sense. Deep snow is really going to bother those heavy vehicles. Yeah, we
yeah,
had special rules there. We had some special rules on the Shattered Village for smoke and fire. I know the first time we did this, I think we had special rules for each board, but that just seemed like a lot for the players to keep up with. Rules like that are good for one-off play in club play, but
yeah,
can be real tough on players in tournament play.
yeah, because they got enough to worry about without special. A lot of times, I know we had that one tournament where we had like a special rule on almost every table, and and
Yes.
and the jungle had the monsoon, and guys were forgetting about it. They were so
Yep.
busy playing that they just forgot about, oh, we got supposed to roll for this or that.
Right.
Yeah,
So I kept it pretty simple for this tournament.
yeah.
So let's talk a little bit. We talked about the terrain. Let's talk about some of the armies. This is a few of the armies that we had. Of course, got Randy's army. Tell us a little bit
Good.
about your army, Randy.
Okay, so yeah, so I've got a bunch of Gurkhas. And I put mortars in. Like I got the two trucks there that designed to push the Gurkhas up, And a lot of guys don't use trucks and they run them across the table. And I found that they just take too many casualties, even though the pins don't bother them if you have up and at them. I'd almost rather sacrifice the truck, run it 24 inches right at the enemy, let them shoot my truck. My Gurkhas are going to jump out. I might lose one guy. They're going to move 6 inches forward. I might be able to jump into some cover, and in the next turn, I'm ready to really start working on them. You know, the one thing that I was really pleased with though was my armored car. It's a heavy armored car. It costs quite a few points, but it has a 75 millimeter gun with a 2-inch HE. And that thing not only killed some tanks, but it really hurt some infantry too, because it was able to move up and shoot at short range and it's recce too. So in the next turn, if it gets shot at, I can always just jump right back out of the way.
Oh.
Yeah.
And which
So
armor car
no,
is that?
no,
That was the Humber Mark II or the AEC. That was the AEC, right?
it's the AEC. It's not a
Yeah.
Staghound. A lot of guys like to play the Staghound, but the Staghound just has a regular medium anti-tank gun. It only has a 1-inch HE. The AEC armored car has the 75 millimeter medium AT gun. So it's worth taking. I think it's like 5 or 10 points more, but you get that 2-inch HE. I didn't get to run over any artillery units, so I was hoping to assault some artillery units, and I didn't get to do that.
Oh my gosh, Chris took one of his Italian tanks and ran over somebody's truck.
Did he? Yeah.
And we had to check the rules, but the rules say if an unarmored vehicle gets hit by an armored vehicle, it's toast.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was pretty good. But yeah, and I think you've described the AEC as the British version of the Puma.
It is.
Just a
Yeah. Yeah.
just a darn solid armored car, basically a light tank. So wow. And so just some other sample armies. This is by no means all the armies we had, or even all the armies we have pictures of, but we just kind of want to give our viewers a sample here. Um, this is actually a Romanian army put
Romaine.
together by one of our fellas. A couple things tell you about it. If you look close, the helmets are actually a rounded helmet, which is what the Romanians wore, and then the guns are actually have more that French style camouflage, which the French army influenced a lot of the Axis and Allied miners in the interwar years. So you see a lot of that whole French broken pattern camo though there. The equipment is German because the Romanians used a fair amount of it. I think that gun in the back is a Romanian homebrew, and then a couple of German trucks. So Romanians are a lot of fun to use. I think their quality tends to be a little spotty, but they're cheaper for all that, and then they can sometimes take German allied equipment. So that's
So,
that's pretty cool.
so do
Uh,
you think that's that a Stu 42 or is that a just a Stu 3?
I think that's a Stug 42,
Yeah, that's a
which
really nasty gun because that
yeah,
medium howitzer.
yeah,
Um,
it'll knock chunks off of light armor and knock infantry right out of buildings. It's a 105.
Yeah, see,
So
the one time I had my Gurkhas on foot. I faced an army. I think I faced this guy here, and he had that, and that Stu 42 chewed my Gurkhas up before they could even get close to him.
yeah, yeah, because you can throw a 3-inch HE out there, and you got that MG 42 up top that rolls 6 dice, and you
Yeah,
can fire them both. So yeah, it's nasty. I think his anti tank power is right here. That looks like maybe a Panzerjäger 1 or 2. So yeah, pretty. Still, again in bolt action, you're not necessarily looking. You're not necessarily either looking to either field or deal with the bigger marks of tanks. Although you may see them. There was one guy, Patrick, in this tournament, fielded a JS2, and he ended up being one of the 3 top players.
yeah.
But that was a heck of a point sink. So you're
Oh
not
yeah.
often going to be running into the big tanks. So this mix here will generally deal with most of the armor you're going to see. Somebody's got a Tiger, somebody's got a JS2. Well, it was nice knowing you.
So this
Um,
is John Connor's army,
yes, yep,
and this is a non-Gurkha British army.
yes,
You don't see a lot of that, but he did very well with it.
yes, yeah. John was game. I saw his write up on this. He was really focused on that British special rule where for every 3 riflemen you get +1.
Yeah.
So a British fully loaded British rifle squad will give a fully loaded German squad a run for its money because they can flat throw some lead out. And then, of course, the paratroopers give you something solid to grab and hold ground. I run something similar when I run my Germans. I'll run a regular German force and throw in a squad of paratroopers just to give me some hold weight. And you'll notice the British officer here, in true British fashion, is having his cup of tea
Cup of
there.
tea. Yeah, I like that. And I read an article today where they were talking about the Lee Enfield, the British Lee Enfield, and they
Yeah,
were saying that three soldiers with Lee Enfield would have the same firepower as one LMG.
I believe it. The British were very well trained
Yeah,
and could really put some firepower. And they've been that way since at least since the 1700s. The British Army has stressed firepower,
yeah,
and they've been known as an army that can put down a lot of firepower and do a lot of damage. In the Great War, the BEF, it was a spent force, but they blooded the Germans' nose pretty good. And several times the Germans thought they were facing machine guns, when really what they were facing was the concentrated fire of British infantrymen. And the Lee Enfield, I think, predates the Great War, so pretty much the same
yeah,
rifle in World War I and World War II.
yeah. It's a
If it works,
timeless
why
weapon.
change it, right?
Yeah,
So our last army is the 100th Jaeger Division,
yep.
and the backstory here is kind of cool. The guy that owns the army, it was the infantry was given to him by a friend of his who later passed away, so it's kind of got sentimental value to him. And it's an early war army and equipped pretty much as a typical early war army might be. Light armored car there, although that looks almost like a French or British armored car on the back there. Um, a
Yeah.
Mark
So
III.
he has a Schwimmen wagon in there as well as a Kuba wagon.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
I was just reading the Schwimmwagen was actually a very common German light transport. And of course, both of those can have machine guns on them, and we all know how mobile machine guns are.
yeah,
Little flamethrower action going on here. He's got a
yeah,
flamethrower team, uh, mortar team, and a machine gun team, and a light and a tank gun team. So I mean, he can deal with a lot of what's coming at him, which is pretty good. That low velocity autocannon on that Mark III is a bit of a problem um, against armor, but it's sure pretty good against infantry. So that's a kind of a sample of the armies that we had and a sample of the tables. If you get a chance to go to a tournament, highly recommend it. Um, you're going to burn your brain playing 3 or 4 games during a day, but it's absolutely fantastic. Close
Did
this out here.
you didn't get any pictures of John Ross's cavalry, did you?
I did. I did. I didn't pull them over into this presentation, but I did. They're
It's a
in.
good
If you'll
looking army. They're pretty neat. Cavalry are neat. I almost wish the British had some that I could take.
Yeah, both in Flames of War and in Bolt Action, one of my daydreams is to build a Russian cavalry unit and pair it up with like a T-34 76 or 85 just to kind of give it that whole round out. So what John did is he used his Char B to cover his cav while they advance. So it's a 5 horse unit. It's a smaller unit, but it's designed to creep up beside that tank, and then when they get close enough, they punch it and they come after you. If
Well,
you'll look on our
yeah,
page, yeah, if you look on Pulaski's Guard, or you look on Gator Games and Books, you can see some pictures of that army in action.
that's kind of historically the way the cavalry was used in the old days. Was the infantry would attack, and when the enemy started to retreat, the cavalry would sweep in and just kind of clean them up as they were trying to get out, away from the infantry.
Especially especially Napoleonic period and forward.
Yeah,
Once you got rifle muskets in play, nobody in their right mind was charging cavalry at a formed infantry unit. But Buddy
no,
Rowe, if they're on the run already, yeah. And there's a couple of there's several reports during World War II of Russian units riding down fleeing German units.
yeah,
Uh, Squad leaders got a scenario called debacle at Karostin, where Russian cav unit comes out of the winter night and chops up basically a German rear area unit, and by the time the reinforcements show up, the calves all headed back into the trees, and all that's
they're
left is
taking tea.
do what?
They're drinking tea by then.
Pretty much, yeah, and yeah, because the Russians drank tea too. So that's our report on the tournament. Randy, any closing words?
Look forward to next year.
Amen.
We'll
Yeah,
get
and
them
of course now
back.
what's that?
We're going to get them back. We're going to get that cup back to the Allied side next year.
That's what I'm saying. And then of course we'll have another tournament probably in October or September. Y'all be looking for that. That's usually when we do our tournaments. Our first one that we ran last year was I think October. So be looking for that. And
Oh,
these will
so
tend to, thankfully these tend to fill up pretty quick.
yeah,
We usually have room for 12 to 16. Uh we could probably do we can definitely do 12 next time. But be watching if get that list in early and get your spot reserved because it's always fun and always worth coming to see.
yeah. Speaking of the team, Mike, we, we're going to try to. There's a charity event going on at Huracan where they're going to have a 4-man team
That's
uh,
right.
from Georgia. So they want some Georgia boys to go down there and try to take on these Florida boys in a 4-man team, and then I think there'll be some New York guys. So any of you guys out there that want to play, let Mike know or me so we can sign you up and get you down there. If you're already going to Huracan, you might as well bring some guys and play it. It's going to be on a Thursday night, so
Okay, so it's early then.
yeah, yeah. So it'll be the first day, and it's in the evening, so you can get there in time and play.
That'll be fun. How
I
many
think
rounds?
he's
Two
going to run
rounds?
three
Three?
rounds. I think he's going to run 3 rounds, and it's going to start at like 4 o'clock, maybe. It's supposed to run till like midnight.
Yeah, it is. And good luck if he can get that done in 8 hours. More power to him.
Yeah,
It took us 12. Of course, we broke for lunch, but still, wow.
I
Okay,
think he's going to have to cut
y'all
the
have fun
points
with that.
down. So I talked to him a little bit about it. I think he's going to have like 1,000 point list and like a 12 order dice cap somewhere in there, just so
Right.
that we can get him the rounds done in like 2 hours.
That's right.
Yeah.
Man, that's going to be fun. So something, a couple things to look forward to, folks. And
Yeah.
and another reminder, the uh, Pulaski's Guard, we have our club meetings the third Friday of every month, and that is open play. So bring what you like. If you want to play bolt action, bring your bolt action. You want to play Flames of War, bring it. Generally we are looking for historical, although BattleTech has been known to show up every now and again. We certainly wouldn't turn that away. But we'd love to have you. It's a space, at a live church that has been made available to us on a Friday night when, if, as we all know, there's other game things that go on Friday nights at game stores that we can't get play there, but you can get play at alive. So there
Yeah.
you go. All right. Well, Randy, hang around after we sign off. And
Okay.
I think I'm going to wrap it up. Folks, thank you so much for taking time to listen to us. And be watching next week as we bring you the next edition of the Gators Garage.
Cool.